Welcome everyone for the second session as part of our Prep Your Firm for 2026. And today's session, I'm really happy to have Rob from RCReports. And what I love about them and why we thought it would be very insightful and important for people to join us and learn about that is that there's a two side for this amazing product is that it both help us protect our clients, but at the same time it open up for us new revenue sources, and that's something that is hard to find, a good product that offers both a good value for our client but also a good value for us. And I think it will be very important for firm owners in 2026 to learn a little bit more about their product and how reasonable compensation can help them. If you have any questions, you can feel free to write them through the chat, and we'll get to the end of the conversation, and Rob will answer all the questions that you may have. And towards the end, I will also share with you a link to join and register for other sessions that we're going to have. So, Rob, the stage is yours. I'm here to help you if you need anything.
Fantastic. Thanks, Elad. Hi, everyone. My name is Rob Southworth. It's my pleasure to walk you through the presentation here today. And thank you, Anchor, for having us here. As Elad had mentioned, there's a chat panel to get your questions in. So please feel free to enter those in. We'll save some time at the end to answer some of those. We have about an hour here today. So I'll leave my email and number up at the end for those that would like to contact me directly. All right, let's get going. A little bit about me. I saw that Stacy, she's from Boston, Massachusetts. I'm originally from Massachusetts, but I reside here in Charleston, South Carolina. My expertise is in reasonable compensation, and it's a space that we've been in for about 14 years now. So many of you on this presentation are probably a little bit familiar with RCReports. Absolutely love building successful teams within the business world, and when I'm not doing that, I enjoy the outdoors and some traveling. So enough about me. This is about you. It's my goal for you to have a full understanding of how really thousands of tax professionals, EAs, CPAs, bookkeepers, business evaluators, business owners use RCReports to quickly create reasonable compensation reports that hold up under IRS scrutiny and litigation. With reasonable compensation comes entity planning. So definitely looking forward to diving deeper into that with you. And on top of that, really most importantly for this presentation, I'll show you how to incorporate RCReports as a valuable advisory service to your firm while collecting revenue while doing so, as Elad had hit on. So it's really a win-win. All right. So first, let's talk about how reasonable compensation for S Corps has never been more important. And really here's why. So first, there's been an IRS focus shift. So two IRS executives have recently emphasized S Corp reasonable compensation as a key priority at the annual payroll.org Congress. So this tells us that the IRS is paying much closer attention to this area. Second, the compliance notice has been updated. Many of you probably are aware of this. The CP 261 notice was recently revised, which is a strong signal that the IRS is renewing its focus on reasonable compensation requirements. Third, there's new IRS leadership focused on pass-through entities. Again, many of you are probably aware of this. Jeffrey Eckerson has been appointed as Associate Chief Counsel for the new pass-throughs, trust, and estate offices. This means there's a dedicated office now keeping an eye on S Corp compliance. And finally, we're just seeing a surge in reasonable compensation audits. We're hearing more and more reports of S Corps being audited, often starting at the payroll level. This is what we call the by the way audits. So they start with the payroll audits, and then they're going to want to take a peek at the reasonable compensation. So that is why really reasonable compensation matters. And also, I do like to hit on during these presentations, there is a strong rumor that the IRS may put a checkbox on the 1120S requiring documentation for reasonable comp. And we'll touch on that later in the presentation here today. All right. So what is reasonable compensation? How is it defined by the IRS? What factors are considered to determine it? So let's get into that here quickly. So the IRS defines reasonable comp as reasonable compensation is the value that would ordinarily be paid for like services by like enterprises under like circumstances. I'm going to simplify it even further for you with two very, very simple definitions. So I'm going to talk about a business owner. Let's call him Mike Smith. So Mike owns a coffee company, let's say. So when we're trying to explain reasonable comp to Mike, the coffee business owner, or to any other business owner, the easiest way is either replacement cost or fair market value. So here's a replacement cost. As a business owner, if I had to step away from my business for any reason and I had to hire somebody to come in and perform all the sales duties and responsibilities that I'm currently performing, what would be that individual's replacement cost? We see it come up in court cases explained just that way, as well as fair market value also comes up in court cases, and it's explained very similar. Fair market value is really the flip side of that same coin of replacement cost. As a business owner, if you were to shut down my company and I go to work for a competitor in the same community who would hire me to perform all the same duties, all the same responsibilities that I'm currently performing at my company, now what would that company pay me? That's really the easiest way for you to explain it to your clients so that everyone understands it, really including you. All right, this is probably my favorite slide of the whole presentation. As you probably know, there's so many myths out there on how to calculate reasonable compensation. They're all over the place, the internet, literature, and some very credible sources. In fact, the first one that you see here, the 60-40 rule by ADP. The sooner we understand that these are indeed myths, the sooner you can protect you and your clients and really say, this is not how we want to do this. So starting up here on the left-hand side, the one that I referenced before, the 60-40 rule. This is very common. It's placed on a lot of reputable content pieces, articles, etc. But this talks about using this formula. They divide their business income into two parts, 60 designated as salary and 40 paid as a shareholder distribution. This will not hold up during an IRS examination. In the middle of the industry rule, they set wages as a percentage of sales or revenue based on the industry standards. And then there's two myths on the right-hand side. The safe harbor rule set wages at the Social Security maximum limit. And then my favorite, really, the wild blank guess. So this is where your client sets their reasonable compensation for them, or you go out, you just look up at salary.com what a dentist should be making in Boston, Massachusetts, and you go on with your way. So let's talk about the right way or the right ways to determine reasonable compensation. So there are three recognized approaches for determining reasonable compensation. Starting here on the left, the cost approach, in the middle, the market approach, and on the right-hand side, the income approach. So let's start on the left-hand side with the cost approach, aka the many hats approach. This is really geared towards those business owners that wear lots of hats. They perform multiple responsibilities within their business. So they're doing the cleaning, the marketing, the managing, and much, much more. It's really geared towards those smaller to medium-sized businesses out there. And I will say it's by far and away the most popular approach that's used to determine reasonable comp for S Corp business owners, because that's the nature of business owners inside the United States, right? They tend to do a lot. And if they tend to wear multiple hats, they're going to fit right into the cost approach. In the middle, we have the market approach, aka the industry comparison approach. This is really geared towards those business owners that are solely focused on the management side of the business. So they're not wearing multiple hats. They're not doing the cleaning, the marketing, the planning, and much, much more. It is just for those business owners that are solely focused on the management side of the business. And as you can assume, this is geared towards those much, much larger sized businesses out there. On the right-hand side, final approach is the income approach. Hardly ever used for tax compliancy purposes. I do want to emphasize that. This approach is only used for those jobs that are so far out in left field that there is just zero wage data available inside the United States. So we're talking about a specialty hot air balloon technician where there is just zero wage data out there. Now, have you keep in mind, RCReports is the largest database of wages inside the United States. So it's very, very rare for our customers to use the income approach. You really decide between the cost approach and the market approach. We're going to take a peek at these when we get inside the RCReports platform in just a minute here. All right. So when we talk about reasonable compensation, we're not just talking about compliance. We're talking about real money at stake for S Corp business owners. So first, penalties are expensive. If an S Corp is audited and the IRS reclassifies distributions as wages, the business can be on the hook for back taxes, penalties, and interest. And penalties alone can cost around 30% of the underpaid compensation. So certainly keep that in mind. Second, representation fees add up quickly. You all know that going through an audit isn't just about paying what's owed. Owners will also face additional costs for CPA hours, legal support, IRS representation, all of which can really easily add up to thousands more to the total cost. And the takeaway is crystal clear. Getting reasonable compensation right up front is a lot less costly than trying to fix it up, of course, after an audit. All right, so let's talk about you. So what's at stake for the tax preparers? Not a lot of tax professionals are aware of this. If you sign off on your client's tax returns, you and your client are the ones responsible for that reasonable compensation number. Believe me, we get pushback on this. We didn't create the rules here at RCReports, the IRS did. So if you sign off on your client's tax returns, you can be hit with a $5,000 preparer penalty. Okay, and we get calls in every single month saying, hey, the IRS is threatening me with a $5,000 preparer penalty. What can I do? It's a little too late. Okay, so I certainly, whatever route that you choose, whether it's RCReports or a different route to determine reasonable comp, know that you are the one liable and your clients are the one liable for that reasonable comp number. And especially if that checkbox appears in the 1120S requiring documentation, you and your client will certainly need to get ahead of this. All right, so let's get right into the RCReports platform. I do see some questions coming in. Please feel free to chime in with any questions regarding the platform as we get started here. I'm going to head over to rcreports.com. Everything can be accessed directly from our website. So if you choose to move forward with a subscription, all you'll need to do is click on login in the upper right-hand corner. You'll be prompted to enter in your email address and password, and you'll be logged into your dashboard. So this is my demo environment. We keep the platform incredibly easy to use. This is my dashboard. We've got some tiles up here that look at the status of the interviews and also the reports that we'll be running. This will all make more sense in just a minute. A getting started section, notification area, some upcoming CPE courses. We do present on Incorsa and CPA Academy, so certainly check us out for those. And then some articles pertaining to topics around reasonable comp on the very bottom. On the left-hand side are your working tabs. We're going to explore those here today, but I do want to focus your attention all the way here on the right-hand side with this big blue button titled New Report. The easiest way to get to know how our platform works is to go in and run a test report for a test client. So let's go ahead and accomplish that here today. I'm going to go ahead and click New Report. For this demo, I went ahead and created a test client named Jamie Smith. And keeping the coffee theme alive, Jamie owns a coffee company. I do want to mention you can add as many new clients as you'd like into your RCReports environment, and we never take any sensitive client information. So all that's required is first name, last name of that business owner, business name, and email address. That is all that's required to input as many clients as you'd like into the platform. All right, next step number 2 is we're going to select the purpose of why we're running this report for Jamie Smith. This is what I like to call really the 4 areas or the 4 buckets of where reasonable compensation comes into play. First and foremost, starting up the top, tax compliance for S Corps. This is the low-hanging fruit for the IRS. This is where they have their eyeballs on. This is where we see the most audits occur. If you're working with any C Corps, we can determine reasonable compensation for those clients. Normalizing compensation for a business valuation. All my business valuators tend to select that purpose. And then finally, planning. As I hover over this little question mark, I'll give you an idea of what planning consists of. Really, anything that falls outside of those top three options will fall into the planning category. So as you can see, entity planning, shareholder disputes, divorce, succession planning, and much, much more. So this purpose could be used for those clients that, they're an LLC and you're looking to determine, hey, if we moved your LLC to an S Corp, what would your reasonable compensation be? So that's where that planning category comes into play. Since we're focused on tax compliancy for S Corps for this presentation, let's go ahead and select the top selection here, tax compliancy for S Corps. And this is one of the main reasons why RCReports has never lost the IRS over the course of 14 years being in business. And these are the approaches that we just walked through. Starting up the top, cost approach, in the middle, market approach, and last is the income approach. If you ever need any assistance gaining some insight into these approaches, you can hover over these question marks. You can always ask us too. So if you've got a wonky S Corp client scenario and you're wondering, hey, does my client fit into the cost approach or the market approach? Our industry experts can always advise you on the best fit there. I will say probably 95% of business owners and your clients will fit into the cost approach. It's just so common. If they're wearing multiple hats, they're going to fit into the cost approach. So this is where I'm going to select the cost approach for this exercise here. We have a couple of nice preferences here. We can go back in the year if necessary. This case, I'm just going to select the current year, 2025. I can display the report to the client upon his or her completion of the interview. This is what we call delivery suppression. This is what this will make more sense in just a couple minutes when we get into the interview. And then you could be notified once he or she completes the interview. You're probably all sitting at your computers wondering, hey, Rob, what does this interview look like? How long does it take to complete? How do I send this to my client? All great questions. This next step, the last step, step number 5, is how we have made it really, really easy to send this or invite your clients to fill out the online interview or online questionnaire, we like to call it. So as I had mentioned, to set up a client, you'll need to input their email address. You can simply click here, this blue button up top, to send an automated email directly to Jamie Smith, inviting them to fill out the client interview, which we'll get into in just a second. That email looks very similar to this. It says, hi, I'm writing to let you know I've initiated a compensation report on your behalf. All Jamie would need to do is click on this link and it would take her directly to the client interview. Let's say you're looking at that email and you're saying, Rob, I would never send that automated email. All emails need to come from me. No problem at all. You can simply click this button, copy that link, and place it into your own customized email to your client. Last but not least, click here to begin the interview. Let's say Jamie hops on this screen share right now, and I want to walk Jamie through the questionnaire. Let's say that Jamie comes into my office, and I'm going to walk my client through the questionnaire. Let's just say I want to complete this questionnaire for my client. It is completely up to you how you'd like to complete this or how your client would like to complete this. So let's say that Jamie receives that automated email, she clicks that link, and let's get right into the interview. Folks, this interview opens up in a whole separate URL, and this takes 5 to 10 minutes to complete. I always say on these demos that if we made this hard for clients to complete, we would not be in business. Okay, so this is a very, very easy 5-step process. And let's go through this exercise here today to show you the simplicity. So the first step, 1 of 5, is my time and location. This is where Jamie would go in, set how many hours on average does she put into her coffee business on a weekly basis. You can see it's capped at 40 because of IRS guidelines. Again, every step that you see comes directly from the cost approach that the IRS has created. So we're not creating any additional steps. This is exactly how the IRS determines reasonable comp. Let's go ahead and select a state. Let's say that her coffee business is out of Alabama. Butler County looks good. And you can see step 1 of 5 is complete. Let's move on to step number 2. And step number 2 is standard tasks. Again, we selected the cost approach, aka the many hats approach. So with step number 2, all we're doing, or all Jamie's doing, is she's selecting all the different hats that she wears within her business. And these are just general job duties that most business owners perform. We're going to get into some specific job duties in step number 3, but this is where Jamie goes in, and let's say that she hovers over Jira custodian. She says, yeah, I do a lot of cleaning of my coffee facilities. I'm going to go ahead and select add task. There is no limitation on the number of job duties that your client can go in and select. So let's say that Jamie does some bookkeeping. She hovers over it, gets a general description, says, yep, bingo, I do some bookkeeping. And then finally, management. I know I'm going quick here just for time purposes, but let's say that, she does a lot of supervising of her cafe sales workers, and she settles on supervisor of retail sales workers, and she's going to select add task. So we're all set with step number 2. We're going to select next and move on to step number 3, and that's business tasks. These are specialized tasks that fall outside the common tasks that we just selected in step number 2. So these actually relate to the industry that business owner is in. So if Jamie does a lot of coffee roasting, she can begin to type coffee roaster, looks good. She's going to add that to her work profile. Again, there is no limitation on the number of job duties that they can select. So, I'm sure a lot of you may be working with real estate agents. You can see, if I can spell correctly, if you can see if I just begin to type real estate, you can see all the different selections. So if you're working with a real estate manager that's also a real estate agent, they can go in and select both. There is no limitation. And keep in mind, although we look like a software company, which we are also a data company in the background. We are the largest database of wages inside the United States. So you are going to find that profession, those job duties within our database. We are the largest database. All right, moving on. Really the last step here, tasking proficiency. This is where we're going to allocate how many hours on average does Jamie put into those different hats that she selected until this pie chart up in the upper right equals 100%. And then a little bit of a gray area with the IRS, and that's proficiency. So we say, envision yourself in a room of 100 of the same professionals. Where would you rank yourself? It's a little bit of a judgment call with proficiency, and we'll get into that in just a minute here. But when I click next, we are all set. It says, good job. Your interview was stellar. You saw how quick, you saw how simple that was to complete. If you suppress these report results from Jamie, she would not be able to click report or view report. But in this case, I wanted my client to click view report or the draft report. So I'm going to click view report. And this is the bread and butter of RCReports. This is the all-in-one report. It can be white labeled for your firm. So you can add your firm logo in the upper left, really tying it to adding this as a nice additional revenue stream, which we'll certainly get into in just a minute here. But we've estimated that Jamie Smith's reasonable compensation figure should be right around $40,000. Let's scroll down. We've got the details page. Folks, this is a key page in the examination and in court. This page shows exactly how the reasonable comp figure was calculated. So all it's doing, and all the cost approach is doing, is that it's adding up all the different job duties. It's setting a proficiency level. It's looking at how many hours they spend doing that job. They drill down to the county wage data for that responsibility, and then adding it into an annual wage. And all these annual wages that you see here by my cursor equate to this number here. And that is how reasonable compensation is calculated by the IRS and by RCReports customers. Scrolling down, we've got a business summary stamping the year, the company name, the location, hours worked, how the reasonable comp figure was calculated. We call out the IRS, saying, hey, if you come and examine my client, you're going to find out we're using the same exact methodologies that you'd be using if you came and examined my client. So really, really powerful stuff there. Some other considerations, we call out some court cases that influence that reasonable compensation figure, a complete description of all the different job duties that Jamie Smith is performing. So all those different hats that she's wearing. And then finally, only included in our S and C Corp tax compliance reports. These are sample corporate minutes that, if you aren't aware, these make a reasonable comp figure very, very strong. So everything that you and your client need are in one compact and trusted report. It's really a win-win. As you probably noticed, there is a draft watermark. That's because these reports are in a 30-day edit window period. So if you and or your client need to go back in, make any changes to the proficiency levels, let's say, you certainly can go back into that interview and make those changes. You can always finalize these reports before the 30 days are up as well. So you certainly don't need to wait the 30 days. If you and your client give the thumbs up to finalize this, then that draft watermark will be removed. All right. So let's go back to the platform. We're certainly going to get into what our customers charge for these reports, but I do want to show you the other side of the platform, and that's entity planning reports before we get into creating this as an additional revenue stream for your firm. So let's go back to the dashboard here. Some pretty simple tabs on the left-hand side. I won't go into these in too much depth, but if you'd like to view all your clients all in one place, you certainly can do so. Tasks. These are helpful reminders showing, hey, a report due is for Nancy Reed. Clients with no reports. If you add a client to your platform, it's going to notify you that, hey, a report is needed. If that checkbox appears on 1120S, this task tab will certainly come in handy for many of you. Resources, jam-packed with some helpful templates, engagement letters for your clients, issue letters. We've been doing this for quite some time now. We understand that not every business owner understands reasonable comp. They may have questions, they may push back. So we really arm our clients with some really handy templates and marketing materials. So definitely check out that area as well. We have a playbook on how to leverage reasonable comp to ignite year-round advisory revenue. We're going to touch on some of those points in just a little bit, like I mentioned. But I want to get into entity planning. I'm going to click into the clients section here, and I'm going to find Michael Rowe, just a random client here. I'm going to click into one of the reports that I've generated for Michael over the last year. And I'm going to scroll down. This is our report summary page. This shows the calculated reasonable compensation, when the interview was initiated, when the interview was finalized, and come down to sub-reports. Really one of my favorite areas of the platform. This is our entity selection planner. This is what we call the ESP tool. This tool compares S Corps to other pass-through entities such as Schedule Cs, LLCs, and partnerships, where all net profit is subject to Social Security and Medicare taxes. So this eliminates all those different headaches that you may have trying to calculate, hey, if I move an LLC client to an S Corp, what does he or she save by making that transition? A lot of you have some crazy Excel formulas or some other methods. This is a one-stop shop. It connects to that reasonable compensation report, as you just saw. So let's go through a quick example. And best part about it all is our customers are charging for this entity planning report, which you'll see in just a minute here. So let's say that, and what is this client again? This is Michael Rowe of Michael's Coffee Company. Let's say Michael's Coffee Company did about $200,000 annual net profit as an LLC. That reasonable comp figure that I just generated gets carried over to this field. And I'm going to go quick here, enter in some Fuda and Suda tax numbers, corporate tax fees, QBI adjustment field, consulting and analysis fee. That's that fee that you could be charging for reasonable compensation analysis plus entity planning, which again, we'll get into in just a sec. So let's say I'm going to charge $1,000, entity formation, other adjustments, any local or state tax issues can be placed here. And I'm all set to go. I can change the estimated year-on-year change in compensation or estimated year-on-year change in profit, but I'm going to go ahead and click Save Changes. I know I'm going quick, but for good reason. I'm going to scroll up and click View Report PDF. And this is the entity planning report to show your client, to show Michael, hey, if we moved your LLC to an S Corp over a 10-year period, we can save your business right around $188,000 by making that transition. So it's got a great 10-year projection. You saw how quick it was to make those inputs and for this document to be generated. As I scroll down, you'll see a great 10-year projection graph, and then really the bread and butter, the complete year-by-year breakdown that not only your client can understand, but more importantly, for you to understand. So it looks at the other pass-through versus the S Corp, the annual totals, and the cumulative cost year by year. So it shows that 10-year projection. It is white labeled for your firm. Again, very similar to the reasonable comp analysis report. So you can add your logo and really brand this and charge for it. All right, there's one area I want to get into before we talk about how to make this incorporated as a nice additional revenue stream, and that's wage lookup. I've mentioned it several times on this presentation. We are the largest database of wages inside the United States. So we give our customers instant access to tap into our database and look up wages on the fly. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Here's where I'm going to go in and select Colorado. Let's say I'm working with a hairstylist out of Boulder County, Colorado. I'm going to just type in hair in the occupation search, find hairstylist from the drop down, and select hairstylist. And within seconds, I can see what a hairstylist should be making based on proficiency at the county level, at the state level, and also the national level based on hourly and annual wages. So what this is being used for is that our clients are coming in, they're running those reasonable compensation figures, and then they're really comparing and contrasting those numbers to these different ranges that you see here. So if I ran a reasonable comp figure or a reasonable comp report for a hairstylist out of Boulder County, and it came back at $40,000, I can feel really, really good about that number when I go into the wage lookup tool, because it falls right in between above average and an average for a hairstylist in Boulder County. This can be used for employee wage analysis and much, much more. So really useful for making those business decisions. All right. I see some questions coming in, which is fantastic. We'll definitely get into some of those. But let's talk about unlocking the value with reasonable compensation as a service. So as you probably are well aware of, reasonable compensation affects everything from payroll taxes, tax planning strategies, entity selection, as we just kind of walk through, Social Security payouts, disability, and much, much more. So it's a service. You're running this analysis for your clients. So charge for it. Let's talk about showing you the money. Show me the money here. So reasonable compensation analysis. I do want to pinpoint or emphasize this information doesn't come from myself. We do an RCAS survey every single year. We survey our current customers and we ask them very simple questions on how they're charging their customers. So this comes directly from our current customer base. On average, our customers are charging $521 per report, per client, per year. We really see a range of anywhere from $99 on the low end all the way up to $1,800. Average tax savings for their clients was $5K to $10K annually. You probably are sitting right at your computer. You're probably saying to yourself, yeah, maybe I have 3 or 4 clients that are kind of in the danger zone that I want to run reports for. Fantastic. But what a lot of tax professionals don't realize is that when you run these reports for the clients that you feel comfortable about for their reasonable comp, those reasonable comp figures will come back lower than what they're currently taking. If they come back lower than what they're currently taking, thus you look like the hero because you can go to your client and say, hey, we can take more distributions, saving you money. So don't be afraid to run reports for those clients that you feel comfortable about, because you could be the hero. You could save them thousands of dollars, them take more distributions. And again, our reports have never lost to the IRS over 14 years being in business. They are rock solid. All right, for entity planning analysis, this is what our customers say. On average, our customers charge $745 per entity planning analysis, so a little bit higher than the reasonable comp analysis. And their average savings for their clients was about $20,000 annually. So combine the reasonable comp analysis plus the entity planning analysis, on average, you're looking, at $1,200, $1,300 in terms of combining those two revenue streams. So charge for it. About 70% of our current customers do charge a fee for reasonable compensation. It's becoming popular. Believe me, if that checkbox appears in 1120, yes, almost everyone's going to be charging for a reasonable comp analysis because they're going to need some sort of documentation. Wage benchmarking, that's the tool that I just walked through, allowing you to look up wages on the fly. Really, really cool tool. One thing I did not mention about the wage benchmarking tool is that data is updated on a quarterly basis. In fact, all of our wage data is updated on a quarterly basis. So that data is the best and most recent data that's out there. So definitely keep that in mind. But this can be used for employee wage analysis, certain business decisions, etc. So the recommended pricing of that was around 200 to 500 was the range. All right. Pricing strategy. This is an area that I like to go into. So how much do our subscribers charge for a reasonable compensation analysis, and how do they charge? So about 42% charge a one-time fee per report. So they say, hey, they're putting their foot down saying, hey, this is what we're going to do this year. We're going to charge you $600 for a reasonable compensation report. Sign here, pay now, and that reasonable compensation report is initiated. Included in subscription. This is my favorite. This is going to be the easiest. Add it to your annual tax packages. Okay, that's going to ensure that you have proper documentation every single year for every client of yours. And again, with all the things going on with the IRS and reasonable comp, and I'll just mention again that checkbox, adding it into that subscription is going to protect your firm, protect you from that $5,000 preparer penalty, and also your clients. Included in a one-time engagement, about 14%. I don't charge, about 10%, and the other, they're doing it different ways. So really the theme here is charge for it. If you follow Don Brolin, Eric Green, or some of those other thought leaders, you always hear them talk about charging for reasonable compensation or charging for the services that you perform. You are performing a reasonable comp analysis. You are performing an entity planning analysis. So charge it. All right. Really simple here, just choosing the right pricing structure. Talks about the subscription model, the one-time engagement, and the per report pricing. These are what we found our clients currently doing with the RCReports platform. And just a helpful reminder, run these every year. So this is a kind of a gray area. At times, even our customers come to us and they say, hey, I ran one for 2022 for Bob Smith. I don't need to run one for the current year, 2025. I'm just going to build off of that report. That is the wrong way to approach this, because if for whatever reason the IRS comes and examines you, the first question they're going to ask is, can you provide me documentation on how you determine that client's reasonable comp for a dedicated year? So if they ask for 2023 reasonable comp documentation and you pass along 2018, that's going to get messy. You always want updated documentation. And I like to say, whatever route that you choose, whether it's RCReports, fantastic. If it's not, if it's a different route, you will want documentation every single year. That is what they ask for a specific year. So certainly keep that in mind. And that's why I really like adding it into those annual tax packages that you all offer. That's really the best way to protect your firm and your clients. All right. Here's my email address and phone number, but I'd love to get into some pricing and some questions. Elad, if you don't mind launching that link so they could access that. Fantastic.
Yeah, so everyone who wants to check out the RCReports and their pricing and everything, the link below here, you can click on that and it will open the relevant page.
Awesome. So Plans and pricing can be accessed directly from our website. You can actually subscribe directly from our website if you click that link. No more guesswork. You choose really the right reasonable compensation plan for your firm. So starting off on the left-hand side is our premium subscription. It's for those smaller firms that are working with up to 10 S Corp clients. It includes 10 reasonable compensation reports. We do have a really nifty promo. It ends tomorrow. So keep that in mind. We're adding 5 free additional reasonable compensation reports and taking 15% off. So that is for everybody. If anybody wants to subscribe, that's one of our heftiest promos that we offer all year. So I really, the timing is certainly right for this presentation. Take advantage of that promo. Includes one user, current year data only. The data means if you'd like to run reasonable compensation reports for the given year, 2025. So that's falls into the premium subscription. RC Defense is our audit and litigation support. So for whatever reason the IRS comes knocking, we're here to assist. We're here to hold your hand in that process. That's an additional cost. And then additional reports. Let's say that you're looking to run 11 or 12 reasonable compensation reports. Additional reports are priced at $149. Moving over one is our professional subscription. Again, taking 15% off, includes 20 reasonable compensation report with the promo. That's a total of 25 reasonable compensation reports, includes one user. RC Defense is that $299 charge, and additional reports are a bit cheaper. And then Platinum. As you can see, there's a little drop down depending on how many reports you'd like to run. So let's say you're looking to run 30. The list price is $3,200, but with that 15% off, you can see the price reflected there. Includes 30 reasonable compensation reports, includes 3 users, so 3 internal users can run all of those reports, and all data available, and RCReports is included. When we scroll down, I just want to focus your attention here. There are some features that I do want to call out. The entity planning tool, which I talked about, that is included in professional, platinum, and enterprise. So you can run as many entity planning reports as you'd like. So I definitely want to emphasize that as well. Up here, as you see reports, that just includes reasonable compensation reports. You can run as many entity planning reports as you would like. So check out plans and pricing. If you'd like to move forward and take advantage of the promos, you can click Get Started. It takes you directly to the sign up page, and you'll have immediate access to the platform. So there's no waiting around. Austin Anderson, he's our VP of Customer Success. He'll send you an email, a welcome email, how to get started. You can always schedule some time for a walkthrough like we accomplished here today.
Perfect. Rob, I think it was really, really insightful. We do have a couple of questions, and I'm going to raise them. We have Noel, who asked, can you go back a year and get the report? So
Yes. So you can certainly go back as many years as you'd like. Actually, since we're on the pricing page, you will see current and last year data. So let's say you're looking to run a report for 2005. You would want to subscribe to the Platinum subscription because all data is available. So if you'd like to go back 1 year, professional might be the best fit depending on how many clients. But if you'd like all year, so choose the year that you'd like to run that reasonable report for, Platinum would be your best fit since it includes all years.
perfect. We have a question from Tara. Can non-CPA bookkeepers offer these services?
Yes, we have several non-CPA bookkeepers offer this service, no doubt about it. So, and they are charging for it. So the answer is certainly no doubt about it.
Amazing. Noel asked another question. Is the $299 RC Defense yearly fee?
It is an yearly fee, correct. So it'll be included on the renewal.
Perfect. Oh, there's Tara asked again. Will just pop up. Is premium the lowest package?
Question. So we do offer a single report route. As you see with my cursor here, I can click single report. This is really ideal for business owners. The price is $499 for a single report. You as the CPA or the tax professional do not have access to the platform. all that's being accomplished is that your business owner, your client, will be sent that interview link for them to fill out, and that report will be generated. We can send you that report along with your client. But this is another route. It's really ideal for business owners that are looking to run a reasonable comp for themselves. If you are a tax professional, you'll really want to jump into these annual plans because it gives you the full access to the platform that we walk through. But reach out to me if you are interested in a subscription. I definitely want to just emphasize, if you're working with over 100 S Corps, we can create a customized package for that enterprise plan.
So Rob, how can people reach out to you? How can they contact you after this webinar?
Yeah, fantastic. So here's my email address. Here's my phone number. Reach out to me if you have any subscription questions, platform questions, demo questions, promo questions. I am here to help. Industry-specific questions. You want to learn more about reasonable comp, definitely reach out to me. But it was a pleasure speaking with you all.
Thank you very much, Rob. And thank you, everyone. I'm sorry for that. Thank you, everyone who joined us. We do hope to see you next week. We have another couple of other webinars as well as towards October and November. And we're going to leave that for a couple more seconds for people to take a screenshot or a camera or take a photo so they can contact you, Rob. Thank you very much for teaching us this important option of both protecting our clients but also generate additional revenue for 2026. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye now.